Hello everybody. So I am going to be doing this video for you about general iPad knowledge. Just a disclaimer, this is my third attempt to do it. So hopefully I can get through this one and it will be very informational for you, informative, and you learn something, and hopefully we can get together, get back together soon. And if not, then I will continue to do some of these classes, because I know that this is not as good as being in person with each other because we can't ask questions and things like that. But at least it will give you a little support until we can get back together. So this is going to be kind of an abbreviated class. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. But this is general knowledge. So what we'll do is it's streaming to you right now on 1390. And then I also will put it on the happening page so that you can watch it later. The problem with putting it on the happening page is that you can't really follow along while you watch the video because you obviously have to watch the video, but you hopefully can take notes and then go back and kind of refresh after watching the video with your notes. So I hope it helps. So we will go ahead and jump in. So this is just general knowledge of the iPad. So we're going to start with the iPad being closed. The first thing you want to remember, and we've been saying this since the beginning of our time with our iPads, is that you want to make sure if you're looking at your iPad that this flap is on the left-hand side. The reason you want it on the left-hand side is because there is a magnet up here and there's a magnet in your screen. And when you close it, what it does is it puts it to sleep, which is where we want it to stay when we're not using it. We don't want to power it off. We just want to put it to sleep. The other thing is you want to make sure that this stretchy band that is on your case is on the outside of it, because if it's on the inside, then it's going to keep that screen from being shut down. The other thing you want to remember is that this is not a place to store things. So you don't want to store papers in here or cards or anything like that, because with it being a touch screen, anytime anything is touching it, it thinks that it wants to be woken up. It wants to work. And so you want to make sure that there's nothing in between the screen and the case, and that you have a good clean connection so that will save the battery. The other thing you want to remember is that when you have your case closing from the left side, that you have your home button here at the bottom. So you, sometimes I know it's hard to see, but you can feel it. So that button right there at the bottom, that's going to be your home button. So we're going to start from the top edge of the iPad. So on the very top edge, you have this hole right here. That is your headphone jack. So if you have like the headphones that go inside your ear, or they have the ones that have like the foam coverings that just kind of lay on top of your ear, any of those will work. You can buy them at Walmart, CVS, the Dollar Tree, any of those that fit in that hole. They're pretty universal. So you can use those to listen to the updates with Vonda or videos, or if you're, if you listen to music or news on your iPad, that would be a really great resource for you. Over right in the middle, it's almost impossible to see, but I promise it's there. There's a little bitty hole, and that is your microphone. So if you are Zooming or FaceTiming with somebody, you're going to want to make sure that that's not obstructed, because that is where your voice or the sound goes into the iPad and how the other person hears you. And then following along on that edge, you have kind of a little rectangle button. Now that is your power button. If you tap it one time, it puts your iPad to sleep, just like closing the case does. So that's your sleep button. If you're to hold it down, though, it will power off the device, and that is not what we want. We don't ever want to turn the iPad off. There's no reason to turn the iPad off unless you're having some kind of problem. If you are having some kind of problem, then you probably talked to me and I've walked you through it, or you are just savvy enough to know that you can turn it off. If you follow down from that edge where that silver button is on top to the side edge, if you're looking at it, it will be on that right-hand side. You have these two silver buttons. So these two silver buttons are your volume controls. So they are, the top one is for the raise the volume, and the bottom one is to lower the volume. So that's something to keep in mind. Right here in that same corner where your power button is and your volume buttons, you have this little guy right here. So if you can find the apple on the back of your screen and kind of look up to the top corner, you're going to see this. And this is your outward facing camera. So if you're trying to take pictures of, if you have your Christmas tree and you want to take a picture of it, or if you have a flower that's bloomed, you would want to face the lens at the object, and then you would take your picture. A lot of times people say, well, I don't see the picture. Well, it's probably because you have it laying flat on something. If you turn it up, there it'll be, because your camera is on the outside of the device. Going all the way down to the bottom edge, you should see this hole, which you should be familiar with, which is where you plug in your iPad at night. And then on each side of it, you should see some other holes. There's probably about a dozen on each side. Those are your speakers. So if you're listening to something, or you are, again, Zooming or FaceTiming or listening to Vonda, and those things are obscured, those holes, you might not be able to hear. Now, how they would get obscured is that a lot of people, which is a good thing, like to sit their iPads up like this, okay? And so that they can see better, and they can use the iPad a little more easily. Problem is what has happened here is your speakers are smushed down into that case. So if you are having trouble hearing and you've turned up your volume all the way, make sure that those things are free and able to kind of come out into the air, because that's where your sound's going to come from. The last thing I want to mention is if you will open up your iPad, you will be able to see right here, and it's there's no rays or anything like that. This is your inward facing camera. So this is going to be for if you are, really mostly for you guys, if you're FaceTiming or you're Zooming. So if you are doing that, you're going to want to hold or prop the iPad up to where you would look at the screen just as if you were having a conversation with it. And the camera is going to capture you just as if you were having a conversation with the person on the other end of it. So if you're holding it like this, you're going to see straight up your nose. I pick on my dad because that's what I always see when he FaceTimes me, because he holds his phone down here and I see straight up his nose. So if you want people to see your beautiful face, you need to hold it out like this or prop it up on something so that you can, if you're like me, you talk with your hands, so you want to prop it up on something so you can see it. So let's go ahead and actually turn on the screen. So if you hit your home button, one time your picture will come up, and then if you hit it again, you shouldn't have a passcode, but if you do, you type it in right there, and then you'll be here to this screen. Now, I know it is a little hard to see because of the lights and the glare of the actual iPad screen, but I'm going to try to walk you through it so that this is as beneficial to you as it can be. So if you're looking at the screen on the left-hand side, if you're looking at the screen in the top left-hand corner, you're going to see your date and your time right underneath this black line. So those are some, that's always going to be there. So that's just kind of a navigational tip. Now, if you slide all the way over, so if you were looking at the screen, this would be on your right-hand side, you're going to see some symbols, and then you should see a little white box, and then a percentage. So the little white box is your battery. So that's how you know how much battery life you have left. I do encourage you to charge your iPads every night. And we might say, well, it doesn't need it. And if it doesn't need it, that's fine. The reason I just suggest it every night is it's just a good routine to get into. I plug mine up when I leave for home at the end of the day, and then when I charge my phone, I charge it when I go to bed. So it's just a good habit to get into, and that way your devices are always ready to use when you want to use them. They're not dead. So you should see your battery, and you should see a percentage. So the other thing you might see, there's a couple other things you might see. So you may see a little triangle that sort of points crooked. That is if your location services are on. And what your location services do is it allows the iPad to detect that you are in High Point, North Carolina. Now, you might say to yourself, why is that important, or do I really want that? Is it safe? It is safe. It helps with location detection. So if you, for say, needed to go to Walgreens and you wanted to find the closest one, well, if your location services are not on, it's going to give you Walgreens all over the United States. If your location services are on, which means that little arrow is up in that top corner, that means it's going to know that you are here at 109 Penny Road, and it's going to give you the closest 4 or 5 Walgreens. So it just helps with ease of use. You don't have to have it on. I know some people feel funny about that, and that's perfectly fine. But I do, it's fine either way. I encourage you to do it because it helps you use the iPad better. Excuse me. The other thing you'll probably see, actually you will see, it's gonna be a cone. So it's going to have a rounded top, and it comes to a point at the bottom. Now, that is your Wi-Fi symbol. So if you have that and it's all the way to the top, that's excellent. That means your Wi-Fi is functioning at the highest level that it can function. That you have full, strong connection. If for some reason yours is a little lower, it means that you're probably somewhere that the connectivity isn't as well, is strong and as well connected. So if you go outside, it might be a little less. If you go into, if I go into one of the storage rooms where they have those fireproof walls, the firewalls, it's a thick surface, and it kind of prevents the connectivity from coming through. So really outside would be your biggest thing. Sometimes even if you go into like a back room or a back closet in your apartment or cottage, it could create an issue. But typically you're going to have full Wi-Fi bars. So you want that little ice cream cone. So again, it's a rounded thing that comes to a point. You're going to want that all the way full. And if you have any Wi-Fi issues, you can always come in and talk to us about it. We are still moving forward with that new Spectrum project. So we should hear something about that first of the year. And that will help with our connectivity strength, which is always good to improve upon. So those are the things you're going to see in that corner. Again, you're also going to see your battery, but we already talked about that. So from that corner, if you put your finger on the percentage sign in between your battery and that percentage sign, and you drag down, you're going to get a menu that looks like this. So you should be able to see it a little bit. You have a little drop-down menu. So in that drop-down menu, there's several boxes. So the first box you should see is a plane. Now that plane is white right now, and you want it to stay white. If it for some reason was ever to be orange, that means that your airplane mode is on. And airplane mode suspends all ability to connect to Wi-Fi or any kind of signal. They created that so that you could still use your devices while you fly, but you can't interrupt with the air traffic control signals and things like that. Now, none of us are on a plane here in the past year or probably in the near future, but if you ever see it orange, if the plane is orange, you know that you want it to stay white. Okay, so the button beside of that one and the next 3 that you should see are going to be blue. So like I said, I know it's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to walk you through it. So the one underneath it is your Wi-Fi symbol, so you should be familiar with that, and that is going to be in a blue bubble. You want it to be blue. The one beside of that looks like a bow tie kind of sitting on its side. That is your Bluetooth. And then the one above that is going to be AirDrop. Now, Bluetooth and AirDrop are both connectivity abilities. So it's a little more advanced. I'm not going to go too far into it just because I don't want to confuse anybody. Bluetooth is the one that you're going to be the most familiar with. You probably, if you have a newer car, you have seen where it says connect your phone through Bluetooth. if you have like a speaker in your apartment, if you have like a Google Dot or an Amazon Alexa, then those things connect through Bluetooth. If you have a smartwatch, that connects to your phone through Bluetooth. So if you have those things, you know what Bluetooth is. And if you don't have those things, then you probably don't have any use for it, and that's okay. If it comes a time where you do decide to invest in one of those things, or you get gifted one, we can absolutely look at that together. The one on top of it, AirDrop, I'm not going to go too far into that. AirDrop is for sharing things, larger files, videos, and pictures and things. So again, if you need to use it or you like to use it, then you know what it is. If you have any further questions about it, we can obviously talk about it when we can get back together one-on-one. It's a neat thing that Apple has created for their devices only, and it helps with sharing larger files because it is a problem through emails. The next box over, it says now playing, and it has a triangle, a sideways triangle in it. So if you ever listen to music, or if you listen to Audible or books online that you listen to, this is just a quick access place to start and stop your sound from coming through. So if you're listening to a book on tape, or if you're listening to a news article that's being read to you, you can pull this menu down and you can stop it without having to go into the iPad and finding where it's coming from. So that's just, a lot of people don't typically use that because a lot of people haven't really explored using your iPad as a listening device. But you may have in this quarantine time, this year, you may have been exploring with that, and so that's a good place to start and stop your listening. Directly underneath it, you have two taller slide bars. So that first one closest to the edge, that's going to be another place for you to control your volume. So if you slide it up and it's all the way white, your volume is all the way up to the very top. If it's all the way down and kind of dark, like mine is right now, it means that my volume is turned all the way down. My iPad is on silent. But the next one over to it has a sunshine in it, and it is all the way white, which means my screen brightness is all the way to the top. It can't get any brighter than it is right now. So those are two good sources to kind of their controls for your iPad to give you a little access. The one beside the sunshine is your one that looks like a crescent moon. If it's white like it is now, when you first drop the menu down, that means it's off. If for some reason you were to see that it was purple, it means that it is activated or on. And so when it is activated, it means that your iPad is on night mode, and so it doesn't allow things to come through. So it doesn't allow emails to chime or like calendar reminders or something like that. So if you would like to turn that on when you go to bed, that's fine. My thought is that most of you probably don't sleep with this near your bed, so even if it made a noise, it wouldn't matter anyways. But if you ever see it purple, that means it's activated. The one beside of it is a lock, like a little deadbolt with an arrow around it. So you probably have seen this one before. If yours is red, that means that it is activated. And if it is activated, then your screen is locked in a vertical position, or it could be locked in a horizontal position. Most likely it's locked in a vertical position because that's the only way that Wellzesta works. So when we first gave the iPads to people, we went ahead and locked the screen because Wellzesta only works in vertical or portrait mode. You might hear it called that too. As you started to use the iPads and realized that you can use them for a lot more things than just Wellzesta, you probably have taken that lock off because for me personally, I like to use my iPad horizontally. It's a bigger screen area, it's a bigger keyboard, and I do watch videos on my iPad. So if you're one of those people, then you don't want the lock on. But if you're one of those people who only uses it for Wellzesta or only uses it in horizontal or vertical mode, then you would want that lock on. And again, like I said, if it's white like it is now, that means it's not locked, so it will rotate. Your screen will rotate vertically and horizontally. If it's red, then that means it is locked vertically, and that you won't be able to turn no matter how many times you try. It will not rotate. Okay. So underneath it says screen mirroring, and that is what we wanted to stay on. I don't, for the life of me, know what that means. I just know that that's what we wanted to say. So if it forever some reason doesn't say that, bring it to me and we'll take a look at it. We want it on screen mirroring. Now there's 4 boxes underneath it, and the first one is a bell. So if that bell is white, that's perfect. If that bell is red and has a line through it, it means that your iPad is on silent mode. And if your iPad is on silent, no noise will come out. No alarms will come out. No video noise will come out. So if you're trying to listen to Vonda in one of her updates, nothing is going to be produced, okay? So you want to make sure that unless you're taking your iPad to church with you or to the doctor's office or somewhere where it might not need to make noise, that your bell is always white like it is now. Again, if it's red and has a slash through it, that means that it is activated and no noise will come out of your iPad. Next to it is a little symbol that looks like a clock, and that's just a quick way to get to your alarm clock. You can go to your alarm clock and explore. You can obviously set alarms. Some of you probably will ask, well, how do you set an alarm? Anytime you see a plus sign, that's going to be a cue to you that you can make an action. So anytime you see a plus sign on any of those menus, that's going to be a way for you to make an action. So that's the alarm. The one beside of it is your camera. So again, just remember that this access or this menu is so that you don't have to go deeper into your iPad and search for something. So if you were trying to capture a picture very quickly and you could remember to drop this menu down, you could drop it down, click your camera button right here, and your camera would come on. Then that next one beside of it is probably going to look like a little house for you guys. If it doesn't, then it's, or if you don't have the house, it means I've taken it off of there, which is fine. The house means, for a lot of people who use a lot of tech stuff, they have smart appliances, and so, or smart thermostats, so they can set their ovens to preheat while they're on their way home. They can turn their thermostat up and down if they were out of town. They can lock and unlock doors. I don't know anybody here on campus that has those things. There probably is somebody, but if they have it, then they know how to use that feature. So we won't go into that too much. So to get out of that menu, all you have to do is touch anywhere in this blurry part. So you see how this menu has made the background kind of blurry. If you touch into it, that menu will go away. It will dissipate. The one other thing I want to show you, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Like I said, I don't want to do too much and overwhelm you while you're by yourselves, is if you go from this top part right here and drag down, you can see that that menu appears. I know it's hard to see. You can sort of see it better if I turn it that way. This is your notification center. So several of you have said, I see things and then I touch my home button and they disappear. So anytime that you are not using your iPad and something happens, so say you get an email or you get a message from Wellzesta and it shows up, this is where it's going to stay. So sort of think about this as a answering machine for your iPad. So anytime your iPad is not in use and you receive a notification, it's going to come to this page. But what happens is when you touch your home screen, or you touch your home button rather, it disappears. So you might want to know how to get back to it. And again, you go straight from the center of the screen at the top and you drag down. And if you get to that place, then you'll see where it says Notification Center. And this is just alerting you that you have these things. All of these things are going to be in a different place, and so it's likely that you'll stumble upon them eventually. But this is just telling you, hey, you have an email. So for me, for instance, I have a couple things, a couple emails. I've got a couple things from Wellzesta that were noticing, that were alerting me to them. And then I have a couple apps that I allow to send me notifications. And so they have sent me those things. So again, one more time, if you touch your home button, that's going to go away. And if you drag down from that very center part, it's going to bring that notification center down. Okay? So, like I said, this is an abbreviated class. This is not everything we usually cover in general knowledge because I don't want to overwhelm you. If you have any questions about today's topics, you can call me. Again, we aren't meeting one-on-one, just in this kind of flare-up that we're having right now. We could meet in the hallway in passing. We just really don't want to spend a lot of time with people one-on-one, because remember, Vonda tells us that it's that 15 minutes, and it's hard to work on something on our iPads 6 feet apart. And so right now we're just going to kind of hunker down and hope this passes by us. We have good hopes from Vonda's updates about the vaccines, and we're going to get through this together. So I say all that to say, if you have a question, if your iPad's not working, please don't hesitate to call me. We will work through it. We will get it back up and running. But we just can't spend a lot of time like we have been together until this tough spot passes by us. So I hope you guys all are having a great day. And like I said, I will post this video to Happening so you can watch it again if you want to. And then it will have obviously streamed on 1390 at 3:30. So I hope you guys have a blessed weekend, and I will see you next week.